Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the pretty dramatic and formative early life of a prominent leader, Dallin H. Oaks. This is all coming from the first chapter of his biography, and we're going to uncover these incredible trials of faith and these moments of assurance that really shaped him right from his very first day. So before we jump in, just think for a second. What's that one moment from your childhood that really defined who you are? For Dallin H. Oaks, the subject of today's explainer, that moment happened before he could even remember it. It was literally a life and death situation on the day he was born. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in Provo, Utah, way back in the summer of 1932. Now you have to picture this. There wasn't even a hospital in the city back then. So what should have been a pretty routine home birth, well, it was about to take a really dramatic, life-threatening turn. So his mother, Stella Oaks, she'd been in labor for a long time. It was a really tough delivery. Now, her husband and her brother-in-law were both there. They were doctors, so you'd think things would be okay. The baby boy finally arrives, but there was a huge problem, a really critical one. He wasn't breathing, just completely lifeless. You have 3 doctors in the room, right? His own father is one of them, and they immediately just spring into action, trying everything they can think of, every medical technique they knew, just trying to get this little baby to take a single breath. I mean, they were trying everything, spatting his little body, bending him double, you name it, but nothing was working. And you can just imagine the seconds ticking by. Hope is just starting to drain from the room. And then a nurse who was there, Nettie Oaks, she suddenly gets this idea. It was completely out of left field. So what was the idea? She suggests a quick spray of cold chloroform right on his chest. And that sudden freezing shock, it worked. It shocked his tiny body into a gasp, and he took his very first breath. It was that quick thinking, his mother always called it a moment of inspiration, that literally saved his life. You know, this whole moment just perfectly captures this mix of medical skill, family being right there, and what they really saw as a kind of divine intervention that marked his beginning. He was named Dallin Harris Oaks, and that first name, Dallin, it came from Cyrus Dallin, a famous sculptor his mom really admired. So right from day one, he's connected to this legacy of art, family, and faith. All right, so next up, let's talk about his dad, Dr. Lloyd Oaks. He became this really foundational influence in young Dallin's life, and he taught these unforgettable lessons about 2 things that seem opposite but aren't: gentleness and principle. And here you can really see the 2 sides of the man. His father knew how to balance this deep tenderness with just rock-solid principle. So on one hand, you have this incredible gentleness, like when he had to take a fish hook out of a boy's finger. And on the other hand, you have this firm, clear line about what's right and what's wrong. No gray areas. And think about this for a second. Years and years later, when Dallin looks back on that whole fishhook incident, what did he remember? It wasn't the pain. It wasn't even that he'd made a mistake. It was his father's incredible kindness, his humility. I mean, can you imagine? That was a lesson in character that stuck with him, especially after his father was gone. But this beautiful period, this time of love and learning, of a little boy just looking up to his dad, it was all about to be tested. It was about to face its biggest and most heartbreaking trial. So it all started in the fall of 1939. Dr. Lloyd Oaks gets really sick. By Thanksgiving, they have a diagnosis: tuberculosis. And this meant he had to be sent to a sanatorium in Denver, which was miles and miles away from his family. What came next was this brutal, year-long fight for his life that just pushed the family to its limits and really, really tested their faith. And through all of this, all this pain and separation, his mother, Stella, just held on to this absolute ironclad faith. She fasted, she prayed constantly, she even declared with total conviction, "You shall be healed. I know it." She was completely certain a miracle was on its way. But it wasn't going to be the miracle she was hoping for. Dr. Lloyd Oaks died when he was just 37 years old. He left behind his wife and their 3 little kids. And the news, the absolutely devastating news, reached his son, 7-year-old Dallin, while he was away from home, staying at his grandparents' farm. I mean, you can just imagine this moment of just profound, shattering loss for a little kid. His grandmother tells him his dad is gone, and what's his first instinct? To run, to hide in a bedroom and just pray that it wasn't true. I mean, really, how does a child even begin to process a tragedy that big? So, in the really tough days that followed, Dallin found his escape. He dove into books and became what he later called a rapid and prodigious reader. At the same time, his mother showed just incredible strength. She went back to school, got her teaching certificate renewed, and eventually, she packed up the whole family and moved them to start a new life. This whole early chapter of his life, packed with faith, tragedy, and just sheer resilience, it really set the stage for the man he was going to become. It's a really powerful story. And it leaves us with a question that, let's be honest, we all have to face at some point. How do our deepest, most painful trials end up forging our greatest strengths?